There are 1.6 million disabled people who currently receive the benefit, but about 71% of them will lose out. Well, Asta Philpott is a disability and equality campaigner. He is here in the studio. Hi, Asta.
Hi.
Thanks for coming in. What do you make of this?
It's tough, isn't it? Because, you know, the country is in trouble. There's this apparent black hole, but it all seems to be disabled people who get hit a lot with cuts. And, you know, take me, for example, I've got a lot more costs to go out. Me and my wife got married in January.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We've got children with autism who live in the house. But, you know, I know you said MPs are human, but to me, they're not in touch with society whatsoever, because, you know, who makes these decisions? Who does this? Who talks to the people who it's going to affect? I mean, you know, is a person with a disability actually making that decision that's going to affect so many people with disabilities?
Yeah.
You know,
well,
and
it's Rachel Reeves who made the decision, certainly, and Keir Starmer. But I wonder, maybe you could just paint a picture for us about the extra costs that you pay as someone who is disabled, because there are also, I remember talking to someone previously, you told me that, you know, showering, for example, it takes a bit longer because you're disabled. You need more hot water. That means that the costs go up. Are there things like that factor into your mind and your bills?
Yeah, absolutely. I can't just jump in and out of the shower. I can't have a quick shower. It's a very long shower, actually. Can't have a quick bath. I've got to have my chair on all night on charge, otherwise I won't move the next day. I've got to have a special car that takes more fuel because it's bigger, so there's no fault of my own. So all these added costs, you know, and it's quite scary, because the government have got people with disabilities, and I'm going to be frank now, on a dangling carrot. And, you know, if we say something, we're all scared to rock the boat, because they've got us, you know, they've got us really by the nads. And in actual fact, they've got us all living in fear, because now we're all waiting for the October budget, and we're thinking, oh my God, what's going to happen? I mean, at the end of the day, you know, what really annoys me is that David Lammy went out and promised Ukraine 400 million.
600 million.
600 million, even worse. In an actual fact, and then in one hand they're giving to Ukraine, and then in the other hand they're taking away from actual vulnerable people in this country, our own people who need the help. It
does seem to some people that the government has money to do the things it wants to do, but it doesn't have money to do things that a lot of people want it to do. I wonder how this could be fairer, because there are, I mean, even Age UK says that 8 out of 10 people won't really be affected by this. There are people who have, I'm thinking of a couple I know that both got, you know, both teachers, both got public service pensions. They'll be fine. They don't need a winter fuel allowance. They're okay. But there are a lot of people who do, and there are a lot of people who won't get pension credits. They're too proud, or they won't do it. And I mean, we're talking about people literally freezing to death this winter as a result, including disabled people. How do you do it in a fairer way?
I completely agree. You know, there are people out there that won't even notice the winter payment going into the bank because they've got enough money. So it needs to be means tested, and I totally agree with that. You know, take my parents, for instance. They cared for me for 40 years. They didn't get a penny for it because they couldn't get carer's allowance, and now, when they were pension age, they couldn't get carer's allowance because they were getting too much pension. They were just over the threshold. So I think it needs to be a fairer system, you know, and I think that it does need to be means tested. There are people that I know who have bank accounts who get this winter payment. They're like, oh, I didn't realise I actually got into my bank. And then there's people with disabilities and poor pensioners on the other side who really need it and rely on it. I was in a taxi on the way here, and he says, I just got my first winter fuel payment and I've just got it taken off me, you know. So, like, where's the fairness? Where's the humanity? You know, we seem to have lost the plot somewhere.
Let's hear from David in Havering. He sent us a voice note about this as well. And if you want to send us a voice note, 0344 499 1000, or give us a ring, talk to us, talk to Asta as well about what you're experiencing. Maybe you're a disabled person too. 0344 499 1000. Let's hear from David.
Good morning, Peter. As someone with a complex disability, including hypermobility Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, autism and complex PTSD, I find it absolutely disgusting that this Prime Minister, in his blooming wisdom, has decided that disabled people won't get the winter fuel allowance either. He's totally crackers, honestly.
And we've got a number of messages as well, including from Tony, who said OAP should peacefully protest outside the Labour conference in Liverpool next week in regard to winter fuel. Yeah, it's actually not this incoming week, but the following week, and I'll be there actually. And if you are in OAPs protesting, do say hello. Anne says, I'm sure you must be fed up with us older people harping on about the winter fuel payment. Absolutely not, Anne. I mean, this is your station as much as it's my station. If you want to talk about it, you give me a ring or you send me a message and we will talk about it. Whatever's on your mind, that's what it is. And I always say to producers, the running order of a show should not be the same at the start as it is the end. It should go in a direction that people want it to be in. But Anne says, I was watching the Age UK ad from last year where a gentleman rides the bus and then rings the helpline crying because of the cold. I'm disabled with arthritis. And even though I have a tiny pension, I cannot afford the extra heating needed for my condition. Take away the bus pass, the 25% council tax, I might as well be dead. Do you think it's legal genocide? Well, I certainly hope the 25% discount is not going to be taken away. I really, really hope the bus pass isn't going to be taken away. I don't think there's any suggestion of that. But there are a lot of people who are feeling, as you correctly say, Asta, really worried about what's coming in the budget and perhaps afraid to make their voice heard. What would you say to them?
To the people who are worried, stand up for yourself. Speak, because I honestly think that, and this is a station for truth talking, I honestly think that people are too soft. I think, we should get out there and say what we feel. Not in a violent manner, but, in an articulated, intelligent, compassionate manner. Because, like I say, we're all humans. We all need to survive. Mm-hmm. And, if I could go out, if my family were in trouble and I could go out and get a job, say, for instance, in McDonald's, I would be there straight away, But because I was born like this, which isn't my fault, I can't do any of those things. So I'm actually, to a certain degree, reliant on these people making these decisions.
There will be people who aren't watching this, and I should say, they're listening to this, so I should say that Asta is in a wheelchair. Can you just tell us about your condition? Is that okay?
Yeah, it's arthrogryposis. It's a physical disability, and it limits me to an electric wheelchair. I can't feed myself. I basically can't do anything for myself other than speak, thank goodness, and drive my wheelchair, and show love and compassion to other human beings. And I'm glad I was born with that gift, because it's kind of dry out there at the moment.
Yeah. There are just some of the statistics here are quite interesting as well. Steve Webb, who's the former pensions minister, he's also a partner at a pension consultants called LCP, criticised the government for having the information dragged from it from Freedom of Information requests, and 4.6 million people who will get winter fuel allowance will lose it. Who will lose this under the government's plan. They live alone as well. And Steve Webb has said the Treasury confirms our analysis that those who miss out on pension credit or just a few pounds above the cut-off are likely to be significantly negatively affected. This information should have been put in front of MPs when they decided whether to start the policy. And there's a big question as well for Keir Starmer, because he's been asked about an impact assessment for the decision, whether that was ever carried out. But apparently an equality assessment required by the law was the only one that was carried out. And I think that it's really interesting, especially from disabled people's perspective, because a number of people, of course, age, they get a pension, and of course their health declines and they become disabled later on.
Absolutely, yeah. But I was born with a disability, so I've kind of dealt with it and progressed through my life. But there are people, like you say, that either have had an accident or something's happened and they've all of a sudden become disabled and they've been dropped into this, and I'll say it's just, I live in a parallel universe. I'm convinced of it. That I ride along every day, and the way people look at me in society, or the way I'm perceived, on benefits or this or that, I literally live in a parallel universe. So being disabled is not easy.
Yeah.
But, I'm just glad I've got the voice to say it. And I tell you what, when I saw Keir Starmer in the debates as well, I thought, do you know what, silly me. Well, this guy could actually be different, Nah, I'm not convinced.
You're 2 months in, you're disillusioned already?
Absolutely, he needs to change his tune quickly, because he's going to get, he's not it's going to get worse.
Okay. Listen, Asta, thanks so much. Thanks for coming into the studio. That's Asta Philpott there, who's a disability and equality campaigner. We'll take some of your calls on this in a minute or two. We'll go to a break first, and I'll read out a few messages too as well, because there's lots of people getting in touch about all sorts of issues. And as I said, this is my show, but it's your show too. Give us a call, 0344 499 1000. We'll talk to Robin Cornwall after the break. Stay with us.